We're live.
All right. Happy Saturday, everybody. This is David Weiss. Welcome to the Double Deep Podcast. I'm here with my podcast partner, Dan. What's up, Dan?
Nothing much. Just sitting here watching some baseball. Good old July Saturday. What's better than watching some football on a July Sat? I mean, baseball on a July Saturday.
Yeah, what's funny is that right now we're both kind of hungover and we're still doing this podcast because that's the kind of commitment we have to sports.
Yes, this is we love all five of our listeners so much that we're doing this no matter how awful we feel.
There you go. All righty. Big news story in the NBA. It's really been the only news story in the NBA after Phil Jackson got canned is this whole saga with Kyrie Irving get along with LeBron. He doesn't want to be under LeBron's shadow anymore. And so he requested a trade. But what was interesting is that he requested a trade about a week before it got leaked to the media. And everybody speculated that it was LeBron's camp that leaked it to the media. Now, where we stand is whether or not Kyrie Irving is going to get traded. What do you think? You think Kyrie's going to get traded?
I feel like the Cavaliers front office has absolutely no reason to actually honor his request because you know the whole thing is everybody thinks LeBron is going to leave after next year. So if they trade Kyrie and then LeBron leaves, sure they'll get lots of good pieces in return for Kyrie, but they probably won't get a superstar back. So you'll probably have neither of those guys, only Kevin Love, and you'll be stuck being mediocre for the foreseeable future. So I don't think they should do it. I don't know if they will or won't though.
Per Zach Lowe from ESPN.com, Cleveland is looking to get a young blue chipper in return.
Like
So
in,
they
in,
don't necessarily need to get a superstar in return, but they want to
no,
get a young prospect that has the potential who has the potential of becoming a superstar.
and that's the only way that it makes sense because you would trade Kyrie, you would get rid of some bad contracts like Iman Shumpert or something, and you could get one great piece, two other pieces, and another guy, and I think that would make it a fair trade. I'm not sure if anybody will oblige them though.
At the end of the day, I think what it comes down to is the quality of offers that they get for Kyrie.
Of course.
If they get a good offer, they're going to trade him
Mm,
because they do want to compete for a championship this season. They know LeBron isn't going to leave this season at least. So
no,
it's
and,
worth
and,
it for them to accommodate LeBron, who is the best player on the team,
mm,
to see what the market is like for Kyrie. They're going to get a lot of offers because he's coming off an incredible finals performance.
mm-hmm.
So it really depends on the kind of offers that Cleveland gets. I think they're going to get a lot of really good offers that LeBron doesn't want to play with Kyrie anymore. I think that Kyrie doesn't want to play with LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
Either one of them backing from, I don't see either one of them backing down and letting the other person. What I mean to say is that I don't see either one apologizing for this whole mess.
Oh.
Neither one is going to say, I'm sorry for my contribution to
Mm,
Kyrie. I'm sorry that maybe you have been taken for granted. I'm sorry that you don't have nearly as much say as I do on what happens with the franchise. We'll do that. And I think Kyrie isn't going to say to LeBron, hey, look, I'm sorry about how this whole mess happened. It really wasn't my intent for your name to be dragged into them. He's not going to do that either. So
no.
I think that that dynamic isn't going to change. I don't think that we're in the middle of the storm. I think the storm is going to last throughout the season if the two guys stay together. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's going to create a lot of tension, hostility if Kyrie is still on the team. Here's the issue, though, is that the team that's in best position to get Kyrie is the Phoenix Suns. But the Phoenix Suns aren't one of the teams that he listed as being a team that he would actually stay with after his contract is up.
Yes.
They have the best potential offer, according to Brian Windhorst, at least, who's really glued to the Cavs team. They can offer Eric Bledsoe and Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson is the draft pick they got this summer.
Mm.
But the team is saying that they're not going to trade Jackson no matter what. I wonder if that stance is based on Kyrie not including the Phoenix Suns as part of the 5 teams that he wants to get traded to.
That's probably right, because even if he is Kyrie Irving and you're going to get him for what, 2 or 3 years, if you're going to give up like a piece as good as Josh Jackson can potentially be, you need assurance that the guy is going to re-sign. And I think it wouldn't be a fair trade if Kyrie went to Phoenix, and Cleveland didn't get Josh Jackson in return, because it's probably the single best trading chip that Phoenix has.
Here's a fun question for you. Whose side do you think the Cavs are on?
Oh, I don't think I think that Dan Gilbert doesn't seem to like LeBron James a lot. So,
You think so?
understatement.
Yeah, I think that they're not buds. I
No,
don't
I
think
think
that they've ever partied.
no. I think you're right. So I can't imagine that Dan Gilbert is on LeBron's side.
Isn't that the interesting thing about this whole mess? Is that
Yes.
this is this is the funniest story, because here you have the Cavs
Mm-hmm.
who totally understand where Kyrie's coming from, because he is a franchise talent
Mm-hmm.
and he has to settle for being under the shadow of LeBron, who
Mm-hmm.
does call the shots for the team because his contract is up at the end of the year. He's the best player in the league. He has all the leverage right now to hold Cleveland's feet to the fire and say, do this, do that, or else I'm going to leave and you guys are going to suck again. So, and the team is built around LeBron. So there's that dynamic. There's the dynamic of Kyrie saying, look, I know that we've been competitive. I know that we've been going to the finals basically every year. I know that if I stay, we'll probably go again to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much instability within this organization. There's a better than 50% chance that LeBron's going to leave because Golden State really put themselves over the top by getting Kevin Durant. And there's really nothing possible. There's no player that Cleveland could plausibly get that's going to put them in the same playing field as Golden State. And then there's the Cavs, who are kind of stuck in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
because they do want to compete for a championship, but at the same time they have to consider their future,
Yes.
and they have to consider the fact that Kyrie is more likely to stay on the team, not just because of the contract. Kyrie, a representation of their future than LeBron is.
Of course, because he's still young. He's a guy they draft. I mean, they drafted LeBron too, but you know what I mean. He's sort of like very much somebody they can actually build around. Somebody that will actually stay and not leave every 2 years, and try and play mind games with everyone. And I love LeBron. He's a great player, and I have no problem with his sort of micromanaging stuff. But if I put myself in the mind of Kobe Altman now, who's the GM of the Cavaliers, it feels like must be the most infuriating situation in all of sports because you can't trust anything. So you have to. So if Kyrie wants out and LeBron is going to leave, yeah, I think you just have to maybe completely just give up on both of them and try and say we're gonna have a non fresh start, clean slate. Give us all of the prospects you have.
You know what I think is the most underrated story of the summer?
What?
And it relates to what we're talking about. The fact that Chauncey Billups declined on taking the Cavs GM job that he was
Yes,
offered.
and you know what tied with that is the fact that David Griffin got fired or quit. It doesn't actually matter if he got fired or quit. And he went to New York to interview with New York twice, and the situation is somehow worse with the Knicks than it is with the Cavs. So David Griffin is like the unluckiest man in the NBA right now because he can't take a he can't find a good situation to actually do the thing that he's good at because he's actually a good GM.
He's a good GM, but he's got a really heavy price tag. But what's funny about Chauncey Billups is that he could have gone to a team. He could have been the GM for a team that has the best player in the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
arguably the third best player ever to play in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
They play in the Eastern Conference, which is so much more inferior than the Western Conference. And they have a great team. They've made it to the NBA Finals for the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Probably going to make it a fourth straight year. And he decided not to take that job because that is how unstable the future of that organization is.
Yeah, man, it's awful.
But you know what the great thing about this whole situation is, at least if you're a Miami fan, is that there's 5 teams that Kyrie mentioned that he would like to get traded to, and he'll re-up with them if he is traded to them after his contract is up. Minnesota, New York, Miami, San Antonio. Who's the 5th team? Was it Chicago?
I think New York, yeah, and Chicago, yeah.
Forgot who the 5th team was. It'll come to me though. All those teams, the team that can offer the best deal to Cleveland is Miami.
That seems absolutely true because Miami has a lot of sort of pieces that aren't not expendable in the literal sense, but are definitely somebody that they can leverage in a trade. Winslow and Richardson and either Whiteside or Dragic. It probably won't be both. And they have as good of a chance as anyone to actually do this if they wanted to.
I think if Cleveland is really serious about trading Kyrie, to consider Miami's offer the best offer, because Phoenix isn't going to trade Josh Jackson, at least not without the assurance that Kyrie is going to stay after his contract is up. Minnesota could trade Andrew Wiggins.
Sure.
But I'm not sure if they're actually going to do that. I think that they want to hold on to him. Actually, I don't know. I rescind my statement. Minnesota also could. Minnesota, if they offered Andrew Wiggins, but who would they package him with? That's what I'm trying to think of.
That's probably picks. They do have a lot of picks.
They have a lot of picks, but if they get Kyrie, they're going to have Kyrie, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
That's a playoff team.
Oh, it's already a playoff team already.
It's a playoff team already. They get Kyrie, yeah. They're going to be like they're going to be a middle of the pack playoff team. So the pick isn't going to be worth too much.
Probably not. Oh yeah, that's the logic. No, they would have to. I don't know. And they've been talking about signing Jamal Crawford, and that makes no sense. And then with the Knicks, they'd have to send Porzingis, NBA
Trade
completely,
Porzingis.
it'd be completely stupid to trade Porzingis because he's your best player, and he's younger than Kyrie, and we don't know what his ceiling is. So no, Chicago is they don't have anyone really.
I'm going to go back to my original statement. I think Miami can offer the best deal because I can't think of anybody alongside Wiggins that would that would be better than if Miami offered either Whiteside for Kyrie straight up or Winslow, Dragic, and the draft pick we got over the summer, Bam Adebayo.
That works too.
For Kyrie.
I think if I am very skeptical usually of the way I value people, but it seems very sort of hard to believe that if both sides were motivated enough to do it, that Miami wouldn't be the most logical spot. So I agree with you.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is that because of that, Miami really has a stake in how this thing is going to play out. Because if things get really bad, and I don't see them getting any better, then Miami's sitting there right on the table with the best deal that I think any team can offer. They're going to trade him. They wouldn't want to do, but you get Justice Winslow, you get Dragic, who's a really strong point guard. You get Bam Adebayo, or I don't know how you say his name, but he looked really good in the summer league.
Yeah,
it's a great deal. And I heard Brian Windhorst commenting that Justice Winslow isn't good enough yet to be featured as the main piece in a Kyrie deal. I'm sorry, but Justice Winslow is coming off his sophomore season?
And he was injured the majority of last year, yeah.
Yeah, and the team is really built around Whiteside and Dragic.
Yeah.
So Winslow isn't really featured the same way that Wiggins was featured in Minnesota.
No.
And the same way that Porzingis kind of has, a spotlight in New York.
The thing about Winslow is that Winslow is pretty much, even at this point in his second year, he's only 20. He's at the most 21 years old, I think. And it's all potential. This is the point. We don't actually know what Justice Winslow is going to be at the moment because you can't shoot right now. So if he somehow develops into a scorer in the future, then he can probably be one of the sort of like, I mean, this is ridiculous to say, but there was a lot of talk during the draft that he had a sort of a Kawhi Leonard-like ceiling, but that's sort of like hard to believe that he'll reach it. But that's what people, sort of like thought he could be. They thought he could be Kawhi Leonard.
You know what's funny is that Justice Winslow got as much hype when he came out of the draft as Josh Jackson did this year. So Justice Winslow is a proven product. We know that he's a great defender.
Yep.
We know that he hasn't nearly reached his ceiling.
No, not even close.
And you get Dragic, who's a really good point guard. So Cleveland won't take a step back in terms of being competitive. They add a little bit of depth to their team. If they're intent on trading Kyrie, that's the best offer. So
it seems to be absolutely true. It's all about. I don't think the point is does Miami want Kyrie Irving? I think everybody is going crazy right now. Like if you could just like call every single GM in the NBA, ask like, what do you think of the situation? Like, no, we want Kyrie Irving. Everybody wants Kyrie Irving. I think the bigger issue is that I don't think that they're going to trade him.
You don't know that they're not going to trade him. You're just looking at it from the standpoint that he's a great player and he's under
Yeah,
contract for 2 years. So just
exactly.
because he requested a trade doesn't mean they have to oblige him.
Exactly. There's no reason why they should oblige his trade request. Absolutely no reason,
Right. But
especially when
but the thing
LeBron is
but the
leaving.
right, but the thing that you're overlooking is the fact that they're a championship contender and they don't want to do anything jeopardize their championship prospects this upcoming season.
But will trading but but the thing is, you trade Kyrie Irving and you probably get, Dragic, who's good, a very good player. He's not a great player, he's a good player. And you add for the future. So you sort of have an eye for the post LeBron era. But they automatically get worse for the next season when they trade Kyrie Irving.
They don't automatically get worse because, like you agreed with me before, we don't know what Justice Winslow is going to become. And
No,
by
but
the way, here's something else to consider. Like, there's two things I want you to consider. One is, what do you think an owner values more, winning a championship or ensuring their future?
that's the depends on the kind of owner.
It's winning a championship.
Okay.
Every owner would want to win a championship. Here's the second thing. Is Kyrie worth it enough for Miami to consider doing a Justice Winslow, Goran Dragic, and Hassan Whiteside trade?
No, it wouldn't be both. They would never trade both. Both Whiteside and Dragic. That's insane.
Is it insane?
It makes no sense because Whiteside is sort of like, you need one because you can't take away both of the building blocks. So you take away both of these guys, and then you have a future where you're depending on Bam Adebayo to be your starting center, and I guess he could be good, but I think not Winslow, Whiteside is a known quantity at this moment, so I'd rather hold on to him.
I just don't see how Whiteside is valuable in today's NBA.
He's not, but I've also read someone say that, ironically, Cleveland's biggest weakness is rim protection, and that's why they can't beat Golden State. Is because Golden State does all the things with the 3-pointers, so you have to defend the perimeter. Since they have nobody in there in the middle to actually, in case they do drive to the basket, they have no shot. So I don't think Winslow is a valuable offensive player, but ironically, for Cleveland in particular, or anybody trying to beat Golden State, is actually shockingly effective to have somebody like Whiteside.
Would you trade Whiteside for Kyrie straight up?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. I won't even think about it.
But I think that's the trade, and I think that's exactly what Cleveland is missing, even without Kyrie, is Whiteside.
I think he's going to get traded. That's my thinking on this whole situation at the end of the day, because I don't see Kyrie backing down. I think that it's going to be a hostile situation. I think it's not going to get any better.
Mm-hmm.
There's a school of thought that these guys are going to sit down after this whole media storm has kind of calmed down, and they're going to have a face-to-face meeting with other people involved, like
Mm-hmm.
guys like Richard Jefferson and Kevin Love, and they'll intervene and say, "Come on, guys, we've competed for a championship the last 3 years. We got a good thing going here. Kyrie, we want you here. We value you. Tell us what you need from us in order, to make you want to stay." And you know what Kyrie's gonna say? I'll tell
What?
you what I want. I want this guy over here with the number 23 on his jersey to get the hell out.
And LeBron said that he's not waiving his no trade clause. So LeBron doubled down on staying, at least for this year.
LeBron has got to be the biggest pain in the ass to play with because he's a great player. But God, just like you said before, he makes sure that he has all the control.
Yeah,
He's basically the G of the team.
that's a cliche at the moment, but yes, that's what it feels like. He wants everything to be done the way he wants it to be done.
I don't know. I still think at the end of the day that Kyrie is going to get traded. It's going to be a really hostile situation. I think the biggest thing that was interesting to me about this whole story when it came out was that I thought it just kind of came out of thin air.
Mm.
Then it was reported that this is something that Kyrie has been wanting for a while, that he was blindsided when LeBron actually signed with the team a couple of years ago and left Miami. So he's wanted his own team for a while. And you know what? I got to say, it's a great change because I'm tired of all these super teams. I hate super teams. I think they're terrible for the NBA. They mess up the parity in the league. There's only two teams. I mean, what's the point of watching the NBA if you know who's going to be in the NBA finals? It takes all the zip out of it. If Kyrie leaves, the Eastern Conference at least becomes interesting. We know that the Western Conference is going to be Golden State at the end of the day. Conference, it can become a little bit competitive again. I like that. And you know what? I really hope that Golden State gets dismantled after next season. I hope, Klay Thompson makes a trade demand or he wants a big contract or something. Super teams. It's a cancer to the league. You there? Dan?